Sure. James J.J. Jensen.
So we're not on
James
Facebook, but we're live.
Alsis. John Ruff. Leslie
It won't let me
Rose.
connect to Facebook.
Louis
It needs to-
Angeles.
I should
And Robert Louis.
access the password. Can't freeze your
I'm
information.
going to just take a moment of silence to remember those folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leisner. All right. And with that, we get into the fun stuff now. So next item up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Mr. Lee approves, seconded by
Brett Coulter.
Mr. Coulter. All right. Is there any discussion on the agenda?
Motion to amend the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
I move that we strike all committee and region reports since they're already printed in the magazine.
All right, so Mr. Johnson is moving to strike all regional and committee reports since they're already printed in the LPF magazine for the convention. Is there a second for that? Second, Mr. Vincent. Is there any discussion on this amendment to the agenda? Is there any? Oh, go ahead.
I would like to discuss, yes. Would that preclude reading the rules report? That might be a bad idea.
Mr. Johnson?
Excluding the rules report, if that's the case.
All right, so because the rules report is a completely different item on the agenda, I'm going to rule in this case that would not be part of this motion here, just for clarity for everybody who's voting there. So we would be waiving all of the regional reports and the committee reports outside of the rules report. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Just for clarity? Okay. All right, so we have that clarity there. Is there any further discussion on the motion or the amendment? Mr. Bowen, go ahead.
Even for everybody who follows, could we have the numbers of the, on the agenda that we're actually removing? Maybe that will make it easier for everybody to understand.
Yes, sir, here. So we would be removing, if my understanding on the motion is correct, and Mr. Johnson, if I'm wrong, please direct me otherwise, but we would be striking item 35 and on the agenda, which would be for Sunday for those following along. And I don't see the regional reports. There are no regional reports on here. So.
Okay, so just committee reports excluding rules.
All right, so it would just be item 35, which does not include the rules committee. So the amendment here would be to strike item number 35, committee reports, from the Sunday portion of the agenda. Is there any questions or further clarification needed?
Who was the second on that? Rob Benson? Mr. Benson?
Any further discussion on the amendment of the agenda? So once again, for clarity, guys, we're going to strike item 35, committee reports, which does not include the rules
Streamline
report.
this meeting as much
So we're
as
just going to do a quick voice vote on this because we've had a little bit of multiple forms of clarification. So once again, a yay vote would be to strike item 35 in its entirety from the agenda. A no vote would be to keep it on there. Are there any questions on what we're voting on? Hearing none. All in favor of striking item 35 from the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it unanimously, it sounds like. Congratulations. We have struck item 35 from the agenda, and we're back on to the main motion, which is approving the now amended agenda. Is there any discussion on the amended agenda?
So there's the agenda.
All right. Hearing none. All in favor of approving the amended agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations. We have an agenda, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Next thing we will move along to is item 8, which is the LNC report by Mr. Benner and Mr. Cowan. I don't believe any of these two gentlemen have been able to attend this weekend. No, I don't see Mr. Ruffo either, unfortunately. And Mr. Nikela is, no, sir.
I believe Ms. McConnell is planning on covering that.
own speeches at the event.
Oh.
So, looks like Karen Ann, you might default to you as the only sitting LNC member in the room right now, I believe.
Oh, certainly not. Is this on? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Certainly,
Good morning.
yeah, well, I had to do this in Arizona too. This was fun. I feel like punishing Mr. Bowen for resigning and just making him do it. So not necessarily something prepared. We have had a lot of changes. One of the biggest things is moving off the CRM that I know Ms. McCardle will be speaking on a bit more. If anyone has any particular questions, because I'm not really that sure as to what is of particular interest to Florida. I'd like to speak a little bit about the national convention because that's the big thing on everyone's mind. If you are planning on going, everyone waits to the last minute to get your room block or your room reservation. Please don't. We are going to run out of rooms. And there is no guarantee that we will be able to get additional rooms. DC is expensive. We got a fantastic rate at this hotel. You might be able to find an Airbnb within a few miles, but what I'd like to warn you is that motorcades in DC, they don't announce those ahead of time for security purposes. So the hotel did warn us that people staying off site could find themselves locked on the street for a couple hours because they stop foot traffic too. So you can't even cross the street. So if you do stay off site, you are risking unexpectedly missing business. The $159 night room rate is fantastic for DC. But the other warning is that we're also used to having, when there's 2 beds in the room, being queen beds. They tax the beds in DC, so they took off part of the bed, so you only get full beds. So just realize that when you get a double room. It does clearly say that on the website, but you're so used to queen beds that you don't even notice. So if you are planning, unless it's somebody that you're really familiar with, don't be planning on sharing one of those beds with somebody, because they are not queen beds, but it's a beautiful convention site. It's probably the best one I've seen yet. And just for a point of historical reference, it is the DC Hilton where Ronald Reagan was shot, in case you're just interested in that sort of thing. My dark humor, this is my dark humor. We already determined that a reenactment of that event is off the table or we will get thrown out. That was discussed at convention committee by me because I have a dark sense of humor. As far as the LNC goes, I want to address maybe the white elephant in the room or dark elephant, I don't know what you call it, the elephant in the room. Some of you may have received a very unflattering and to me despicable postcard in the mail.
Not me.
If anyone has any questions on that, please come and talk to me because it is wildly inaccurate. And I don't really care to address libel like publicly on a microphone, but I am more than willing to have a personal discussion with anyone who is concerned about that. But there's a statement I want to make that I hope we can all support. Even if every single thing on that postcard was true, anyone mailing to tell you to stop giving to a party because of a temporary leadership you don't like is despicable. Those types of things will affect this party 5 years down the road. It hurts, it doesn't hurt the LNC, it hurts you and it hurts ballot access. And shame on whatever anonymous cow that sent that out. And you might disagree with me, but that's how I feel. And I feel the same even if every single thing on there was true. We are here for liberty, not temporary leadership that's going to change every 2 years. So I'd encourage each and every one of you in here, if you're not a member of the National Party, first become a member of Florida. They have a membership. Your first loyalty needs to be to your state. But also, we desperately need to get full ballot access this time. It's not Ms. Jorgensen's fault. It's the fault of the state. But we lost some states last time due to certain percentages. And it's not because she didn't work her ass off, because she did. It's because the state frickin' sucks. So please, if you can, donate generously to the National Party so that we can try to get 50+1. The big one, and Mr. Cordova will say, it's New York. Right now, New York has really bent us over a barrel. So I would entertain any questions if anyone had any specific concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Harlows, for pinch hitting right there for us. All right, so next up on the agenda is item 9, which is the rules report for the Constitution. Unfortunately, Mr. Peel could not be here today, so Mr. Catarat is filling in his absence. So, Mr. Catarat, if you want to come up here, we can get into the rules report.
All right, good morning. So we've had a fairly active rules committee this year. I'm gonna go ahead and read Greg's prepared report quickly. It's established in the bylaws with Article 3, Section 2. There are 3 members elected by the majority of you guys at each convention. And there are 3 ex officio members from the executive committee. They can choose whether or not to participate. And we've had some excellent participation from Mr. Appler this year. It's been great. The members are Greg Peel as chair, myself as vice chair, and of course, Mr. Thompson over there as the secretary. The duties include the drafting. We draft proposals to the executive committee regarding the standing rules, appraise them of any issue they bring to us. We've also answered questions from various county affiliates, helping with questions with statute filings and stuff like that. We met monthly on Discord till towards the end, where we were meeting bi-weekly, just to get, and on Discord, anyone can jump in, listen, ask questions. We welcome it. So over the last 6 months, we did a full review and rewrite of the LPF standing rules, which were well received by the executive committee. Some of those rules were sort of imposed upon us by a change in statute, changing. What happened was the Florida legislature, basically as a gift to our governor, modified a law requiring him to resign to run for president. So they took that away, and they also made some other changes to how political parties work, which affected us mostly in our selection of electors for president. Our deadline has been moved up, and we've modified the standing rules to accommodate that. Also, and this is sort of a personal plea I have to you all, we now require more information from those of you who volunteer to be presidential electors. And that's not us asking, unfortunately, it's the state of Florida demanding. So please, if you can, if you think you're going to be possibly a presidential elector for the state of Florida, please make sure that all of your information is current with the secretary as soon as you can. We'd really appreciate that. With that said, I think I'm going to go on to the proposals for the LPF Constitution. And let's go to, let me just cover the approval thresholds. It is 2/3 requirement for the Constitution and a majority for the bylaws. All right. And first main motion, we move to amend the Article 5 to append a new appropriately numbered section with the following text: the special convention of the LPF. So what this would allow us to do is, in the event of plague, natural disaster, whatever, or some emergency imposed upon us by the state government, or in any sort of situation like that, it would allow us to convene and hold a special convention. And we would be proposing to allow also for digital or remote participation in those. With that, I'm going to go ahead and cover. All right, let me just read it out. The executive committee may call a special convention of the LPF with 30 days notice, posted on the party's public and functioning website. A special convention may only be called in the following circumstances. The LPF is required by the government to modify its constitution or bylaws prior to the next regular annual business meeting. 2, the LPF is in danger of disaffiliation from the national LP prior to the next regular annual business meeting. 3, the LPF is in danger of dissolution prior to the next regular annual business meeting. 4, meeting in person for the regular annual business meeting poses a substantial health or safety risk to the delegation. The credential rule for credentialing, the secretary shall ensure that in-person and remote delegates are members of the LPF. Set C, remote participation shall be offered to the delegation and facilitated to the greatest extent practical and affordable by the LPF. D, the business of the special convention shall be constrained to only the items noticed on the party's public and functioning website, except that additionally, any LPF elected position may be recalled and a new election may be held to fill any vacancies during the special convention. We're proposing this partly because of the situation with COVID, but also we wanted to make sure that we had some provisions for various emergencies. And by allowing remote participation, given the short 30 days notice, we figured that would be the fairest and most equitable way to get people access. And we're proposing this simply because Robert's Rules of Order require that we have a special rule in order to enable this as a party. With that said, I'd like to present the motion. Well,
I'll second.
it's from a committee.
It's from committee, it doesn't
Can I
require
just
one.
make a point of order? So if you flip to the end of your magazine, there is a QR code where you can read this, and we're also trying to get it on the screen.
Real quick, Mr. Cadillac, I'd actually like to move to amend the motion if that's possible.
It is possible.
Okay, I'd like to strike out of section D, the last line there that states, except that additionally, any LPF elected position may be recalled and a new election may be held to fill any vacancies during the special convention. I'm moving to strike this due to the fact that there's no notice given and it lacks due process and could potentially be utilized since it can be added on secondary, the way the wording is here. So I'm moving to strike that line so that item B states, the business of the special convention shall be constrained to only the items noticed on the party's public and functioning website. Period.
Second.
Yeah, second.
I would like to discuss this particular part of the motion and why we included it. The Rules Committee felt that a defense mechanism was needed in the case of an executive committee abusing this option. Yep.
All right, there, so, I agree with the amendment, so technically, I think I'm gonna need to pass the gavel off to you, at least for this here. Get us through the amendment. Yeah, get us through the amendment.
Get us through the amendment, all right, where we leave off at?
All right, so we're on the amendment motion to strike that line from under.
All right, so now we're putting this into motion, right?
Yeah, it's an amendment.
Okay, so we're,
It's been seconded by.
Been seconded.
all right, so now we're putting this to vote?
If there's no-
Or if
Is
there's
there- Do
no,
we have any further discussion about this?
Yeah, could you please repeat the line that you were deleting?
The E part.
Yes, sir. So it would be in section D of the motion here, and we would strike it so that the new wording would be the business of the special convention shall be constrained to only the items noticed on the party's public and functioning website. And we would be striking the rest of that paragraph, which states, except that additionally, any LPF elected position may be recalled and a new election may be held to fill any vacancies during the special convention.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
We're ready to vote? Sounds like it.
All right, are we ready to vote? Everybody in favor of removing the last sentence, say aye.
aye.
Everybody opposed? Looks like it carries, to be honest with you. We good?
There's a majority, right?
Yeah. It's okay, so it carries, all right.
All right, so the amendment passes, so we've struck that line. Is there any further discussion on the motion here? All right, hearing and seeing none. All in favor of passing the motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Congratulations, the ayes have it. Mr. Cameron.
Okay, thank you. Next motion is the motion to amend Constitution Article 9 to update candidates' policy. And we moved to amend it to replace Article 9 in its entirety as follows. And there's a bunch of text here. So, candidates who have filed to run for public office within the state of Florida shall be eligible for endorsement, monetary contributions, or other material support. We're going to strike as official LPF candidates if they meet at least one of the following requirements. And we're striking our members of the LPF have registered LPF and replacing the requirements list with that ordered list. A, the candidate is an LPF member or registered LPF voter who has filed to run for a nonpartisan office, public office other than a judicial office. B, the candidate is an LPF member or registered LPF voter who has filed to run for a partisan public office with a party affiliation of LPF. C, the candidate is the Libertarian Party nominee for the United States President or Vice President selected at the Libertarian Party National Convention. D, the candidate is not a member or registered voter of any political party, i.e. has no party affiliation, who has qualified for public office other than judicial office and who is not running in opposition to an LPF member or registered LPF voter.
I don't like that.
Section 2, the LPF Executive Committee may endorse any eligible candidate who has qualified for nonpartisan office or who has become the statutory party nominee for partisan office by winning the partisan primary or any other lawful means. Endorsement of any such candidate whose office sought is contained entirely within an affiliated county requires the permission of the county affiliate's executive committee. Section 3, the LPF executive committee shall be the sole authority to endorse statewide, multi-county, and unaffiliated county candidates for public office prior to qualification by a 2/3 vote. We're going to strike the no later than the date on which qualifying for public office begins. The LPFEC shall provide a written notification of its intent to endorse to the Secretary of State. Failure to adhere to this section shall preclude the LPF from making any endorsement. Section 4, the LPF Executive Committee shall make party nominations for political office when required by law and shall elect, striking by majority vote, a replacement candidate to fill any vacancy in the event of a death or other disqualification by the candidate. Section 5, county affiliates may endorse LPF candidates for public office only as prescribed in statute and in this Constitution. A county executive committee may endorse any eligible candidate who has qualified for nonpartisan office or become the statutory party nominee for partisan office by winning the partisan primary or any other lawful means. Section 6, a county affiliate's executive committee shall be the sole authority to endorse eligible candidates for public office entirely contained within their county prior to qualifications by a 2/3 vote. Acknowledging that for partisan office, this can result in the county affiliate forfeiting any partisan assessment collected by the state of Florida. No later than the date on which qualifying for public office begins, the chair of each county affiliate shall notify in writing the supervisor of elections of the county in which the affiliate is recognized whether the county executive committee has endorsed or intends to endorse, certify, screen, or otherwise recommend any such candidate for nomination. A copy of such notification shall be provided by the county executive committee to the Florida Secretary of State and to the chair of the LPF executive committee. Okay, so the reasoning behind this, a previous Rules Committee had proposed what is now Article 9 to address statutory requirements regarding a candidate public support policy in our governing documents and to ensure that the county affiliate process followed a defined process. This is required by Florida Statute 103-121 and doesn't cause us any legal issues or forfeiting reimbursement or any of those problems. due to the confusing wording of the law and therefore the article, it's not very clear to the executive committee that this only applies to partisan elections for public office prior to the resolution of a partisan primary. That's part of the way the law was written was frankly very poor. However, so what happened was we overly constrained ourselves. And so this allows us to open up a couple additional options for endorsement while keeping certain safety checks in place. It's very important, the exclusion of judicial candidates. You could absolutely torpedo somebody's race in this case. Florida statute prohibits involvement at all. And so what we did was we rewrote the subsection to explicitly spell out that it doesn't apply to NPA office and things like that. And it also allows us to endorse our presidential candidate. So, it also strengthens the rule, limits monetary support and independent expenditures to candidates who'd be eligible. So it really just opens up a few additional options that we as a party didn't have before by rewording this. With that, I'd like to open the floor for discussion.
All right, is there any discussion on this motion here? The sound of democracy. All right, seeing no discussion.
Was the Rules Committee unanimous on its recommendation?
Yes.
Just general question for all of the changes that are being submitted today.
Yes.
Everybody was unanimous. Thank you.
Yep. All right, thank you. All right, with no further discussion, we will move into a vote. A yay vote would be to pass the motion as worded, a no vote would, done. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Ayes have it unanimously. All right.
All right. Okay, so 2024 ABM 3 LPF membership for ineligible voters. This is the motion to amend LPF Constitution Article 2 to provide alternate membership criteria for residents ineligible to vote. So we move to amend LPF Constitution Article 2 to Section 1 to append the text, adult Florida residents who are United States citizens or lawful permanent residents who are legally ineligible to vote may satisfy this requirement of proof of residency and proof of ineligibility to vote, and to amend Article 2, Section 10 to strike the text for registered LPF voters in the state of Florida, and to strike the text and officers and replace with or registered voters. The Section 1 would read, LPF membership is open to any LPF registered voter who signs the pledge. I certify that I oppose the initiation of force to achieve political or social goals and ask to be a member of the LPF. Present members who signed a previous LPF membership pledge retain their membership and eligibility. Ineligibility under this article shall immediately terminate LPF membership and LPF membership request. Florida residents who are United States citizens or lawful permanent residents who are legally ineligible to vote may satisfy this requirement with proof of residency and proof of ineligibility to vote. And then also a change to Section 10. Certain rights and privileges of membership, including delegate status, committee appointments, observation of committee meetings, holding LPF state or affiliate party office, exercise of voting rights, and the conduct of any Libertarian Party Florida business, and the right to bring business before the annual business meeting shall be available only to LPF members, striking who are registered LPF voters in the state of Florida, and shall not be available to members or registered voters of any other political party. Persons ineligible for such rights and privileges may participate in discussions on items of business brought before the membership, subject to the discretion of the chair or by a 2/3 majority of the body. So the current LPF Constitution requires being a registered LPF voter to become a member and have rights to participate in the party business. However, this is stricter than what's required by law. There are individuals who are legally barred to vote, who can become party, who could, if this passes, who could become party members and could lawfully participate in party business, most notably ex-felons who've not had their rights restored, or non-citizen lawful permanent residents who have green cards. We're proposing an alternate way that they can participate to the extent that they would be allowed by law. And Article 3, Section 4E still requires being an LPF voter for being on the EC. That's required by law. Non-citizens, other than if you don't hold a green card, cannot legally be any decision-making positions per federal law either. But they can serve as volunteers. So with that being said,
All right, is there any discussion on this motion here?
Josh, do we have a definition for proof of residency?
Definition on proof of residence?
there are definitions in statute. We would be bound by those.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right, any further, go ahead, Mr. Dr. Nihas.
I didn't see anything there about whether these non-registered voters have any voting rights or any committees or any convention.
Oh. So, this one down here.
So yeah, in the rationale, it has down here that the current LPF constitution requires. Yeah, so we're proposing an alternate way for such individuals while preserving the original intent. Article 3, Section 4E requires being an LPF voter for being on the EC is required by law. Non-citizens other than green cards cannot legally be in decision-making positions for a party per federal law, although they can still serve as volunteers. So to answer the question, they couldn't be in any decision-making position. So while they could not be a voting member of the committee, as we've learned in the past, though, anybody can be a volunteer member of the committee. They just don't have voting rights on that committee. Sir?
I have a question actually about committees' decision-making. Aren't all committees generating reports and the actual decisions being made by the EC or by the membership as a whole? So even a voting member of the committee might not be decision because their decision is only to generate a report.
I personally speaking, that's now, we're getting into the weeds on semantics there. As we can tell, it can get very quickly that as long as somebody wants to interpret it a certain way, it's going to be that way. So unfortunately, in that situation, while I do agree with you, I can also see the other side where perception is going to be reality there, and somebody can weaponize that against us later. So it's better, and unfortunately, and this is just my opinion, and you can disagree with me, but I would prefer, as a fiduciary to the party, to play it safe in these situations than to take the gamble, because Uncle Sam, as we know in the feds, are not forgiven. Any further discussion?
Do you know if decision-making member is defined in the code that you're talking about, the federal statute? Is it a term of art?
So this is basically up to the discretion of the Federal Elections Commission, which is challenging for a third party, to say the least.
Do they have a final ruling discussing the definition of that term, or is it considered a gray area?
It's considered a gray. It's almost similar to judicial case law. It's on a ruling basis, but it has bit us in the past, and we do not want to bait the bear.
To put it another way, ambiguity is not our friend in the LP. All right, any further discussions on the motion here? All right, hearing and seeing no further discussion here. A yay vote would be in favor of passing the motion, a no vote would be taking the motion down here. All right, so all in favor of passing this here, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it unanimously, it sounds like. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the convention or constitutional portion of the rules report. Looks like now we will be getting into bylaws here. Mr. Cataract, when you're ready, you can go ahead, sir.
All right. Okay, so we're at 2024 ABM BO1 for those following along, to strike refunding the partisan assessment. So this is the motion to strike LPF bylaws requirement for refunding partisan assessment. And we're going to move to strike LPF bylaws Article 4, Section 6, subsection G in its entirety. So the passage being moved to strike, the LPF recognizes FS 99.092 regarding qualifying fees and the provision that no qualifying fee shall be returned to the candidates unless the candidate withdraws his or her candidacy before the last date to qualify, with the exception of the LPF will reimburse each candidate for political office the party assessment fee paid to the LPF by the state from that candidate's qualifying fees. Okay, so the rationale here. This bylaws clause was intended to ensure that the LPF supports all partisan candidates by refunding the partisan assessment 2% of the salary of the office sought back to the nominated candidate after the result of the primary. It had good intentions, but it had several problems that were exposed over time. It didn't qualify. So there was a change actually in how the state of Florida handled this, in part because of our pushback. So it didn't envision the ability of the LPF to waive the partisan assessment entirely, which is just way easier for all of us because it makes the candidate application cost less. So our new policy has been to just waive it and make it easier on our candidates to begin with. Save them paperwork, save us time. The partisan assessment is typically not received by the LPF until late July, early August, which is late in the campaign cycle, limiting the benefit to the candidates who are nominated unopposed in May. This bylaw did not account for multiple LPF candidates competing in a partisan primary, and one candidate advances to become the nominee. A strict reading would require the LPF to reimburse the losing primary candidates as well, which would be illegal under state law if done after the primary election itself. The LPF does not control which candidates seek office using its name. It is entirely possible for a damaging or controversial candidate to file, qualify, and become the party nominee unopposed without the support of the LPF or of party members and primary voters. This bylaw would nonetheless legally obligate the party to contribute the partisan assessment to such a candidate. It is legally binding and enforceable in court, as demonstrated by Perez versus the Libertarian Party of Florida, in which the LPF lost judgment in court when it refused to pay this reimbursement. The LPF is obligated to pay out this reimbursement even if it doesn't have the funds. So given those deficiencies, we're moving to strike this.
Thank you, sir. All right, so are there any debate or discussion on the motion here? Pretty straightforward, just going to strike the whole section there. All right, hearing and seeing no discussion, guess we can move to a quick vote there. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. All right. On to ABM.
All right. Yep. The motion to strike LPF bylaws language on filling vacancies. The motion is moved to strike from the LPF bylaws, Article 4, Section 2, subsection C, the text, officers elected during the annual business meeting shall take office immediately following the close of the annual business meeting in which they're elected, and to strike Article 4, Section 7 in its entirety. There's been some changes in Robert's rules that make some of that unnecessary. So, the officers of the party at the time of the commencement of the annual business meeting shall be officers of the annual business meeting and shall preside. We're striking officers elected during the annual business meeting shall take office immediately following the close of the annual business meeting in which they were elected. To comply with Florida statute, this part is again going to remain the text. To comply with Florida statute 1030953, the LPF executive committee shall elect the chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary at the annual business meeting immediately following the elections of the officers by the assembled delegation. The will of the delegation shall be of the highest regard when the executive committee conducts the election of officers, and the election shall be taken as a single vote on the slate of prevailing candidates elected by the delegation. And then no changes down until the striking of Section 7. The text we're moving to strike, appointments to fill executive committee vacancies shall take effect upon the close of the executive committee meeting where the appointment was confirmed. And those two clauses are out of order due to conflicting with Constitution Article 3, Section 3, subsection H. So basically, there's a hierarchy of our documents, and because they conflict with a higher level document, they're conflicting. So we're just moving to get rid of them. There's no need to keep unnecessary text in our governing documents. And all right, and then subsection H is written out for those who like to follow along, which is individuals elected or appointed to any position described in this section shall assume that position immediately if the position is currently vacant, and that the final adjournment of the annual business meeting during which they are selected otherwise, and shall serve until the final adjournment of the next annual business meeting during which their position is regularly elected. So that's the age which supersedes from the Constitution, which supersedes the bylaws. And with that, I'll give you the chair.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there any discussion on the motion at hand?
If this is related to the motion at hand, it's related to the part, specifically the part of the Constitution. Is there anything in the Constitution about what you do if a person resigns an office? Because I'm just reading this section, it looks like they've got the office till the end of the next meeting, or is that something for the next meeting's Rules Committee to look at? Because the Constitution says they're there until the next business meeting. What if they resign or die? Or do you want to look at that for the next meeting? Which is a fine answer, if that's what you come up with.
The whole article, rather than the partial.
That's true, I only see part of the articles.
Yeah, I
may
want
very
to
well
read
be
the text of
addressed.
the entire article. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, so relevant here is Article of the Constitution. We are looking at Article 3, which is the part dealing with the Executive Committee. Section 4, Executive Committee vacancies. And there's a whole slew here, but should any seat become vacant or no willing deputy or alternate available to assume the seat, the Executive Committee shall conduct a special election for the seat.
It's addressed.
Yep. Yeah, it is addressed, is what we're saying.
That's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, so being this, the Constitution being the superior document, anything below is not going to have any authority.
It's subordinate to it. So, yep, it is dealt with in the Constitution. We have a whole section and multiple subsections on vacancies on the EC here.
Perfect.
All right, is there any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll move to a vote here. All in favor of the passing the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. All right, the ayes have it. Moving on to ABMBO 3.
All right. Moving good. All right. Okay, the title is Motion to Amend LPF Bylaws regarding LPF delegate credentialing. We move to amend the LPF Bylaws Article 4 to replace Section 3 in its entirety as follows. So Section 3 is the delegate section. So here it is. Any person who is both an LPF registered voter and an LPF member who is at least 60 days before the start of the annual business meeting and who maintains that membership and registration through the annual business meetings shall be eligible to be a delegate to that meeting. To be struck, delegate status may be denied or revoked by a 2/3 vote of the executive committee if a potential delegate has been found to have violated the non-aggression pledge. Section B, each delegate may sign the LPF affirmation of qualification for delegate form, striking or other equivalent form approved by the executive committee. C, credentials, striking the word credentials, and the secretary of the LPF striking or his or her authorized representatives shall be responsible for and striking, verifying the membership and voter registration requirements of credentialing each delegate meeting all requirements. To read, the secretary of the LPF shall be responsible for credentialing each delegate meeting all requirements. D, so this is taking where we'd strike it in A, D is going to be a new section saying delegate status may be denied or revoked by a 2/3 vote of the executive committee of the delegates, I'm sorry, not the executive, the delegates, if a credentialed delegate has been found to be ineligible for any reason, including violation of the non-aggression clause. So so that would be moving the responsibility. And then no changes to E, uncredentialed members may be credentialed by a 2/3 vote of the delegates if they meet all requirements. So the biggest change here would be transferring the responsibility for the role of the delegates, to amending the role of the delegates to the body rather than to the executive committee. So it'll be a full delegate decision rather than just the EC. And this just clarifies that the secretary has ultimate responsibility on credentialing. Even if they delegate it, they're still responsible. And then, removes any assumptions about LPF membership requirements. So if there's any changes in the Constitution, it doesn't break the credentialing clauses. And it provides a mechanism for the delegation to override the secretary if credentials are denied in error. Keep in mind that they still have to meet the requirements. We can't override statute and things like that. It doesn't work that way. With that said,
Sir. All right. I see we already have discussion on the motion, so go ahead.
I'm reading the very first clause, any person who's both an LPF registered voter, etc. Didn't we just sit there and say that you don't need to be a registered voter to be a member of the LPF?
that's correct, but that's different to be credentialed delegate.
So so what you're doing is you're letting people be members of the LPF, but not a delegate to the annual convention.
Because that would be,
That was a decision made.
All right.
Is there a rationale for that decision? And state laws behind it.
Yes, there are state and federal, there are state laws that prevent people who are not registered voters from being delegates. And there are federal laws that prevent felons and those who are undocumented, or those who are green card holders and stuff from voting, even though they can legally participate in other avenues.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Once again, Uncle Sam is not unforgiving with us, so have to always play it cautious. All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Oh, that's all I had up back there. Okay. Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. All right, now we are on to ABM B04.
All right. This is the motion to amend the LPF bylaws to strike the agenda prescription. So we move to amend LPF bylaws, Article 4, Section 2, subsection A, to strike the text agenda and business and replace it with proposed agenda, and to strike subsection B in its entirety. Okay, so Section 2, the agenda section, the motion would be to take the executive committee shall set the proposed agenda and striking the words "and business" of the LPF annual business meetings and conventions. B, striking B, the order of business must include the adoption of the agenda. The meeting may amend the agenda by majority vote. Okay, the rationale is the clause in Article 4, Section 2B defines substantially wider powers than obvious at first glance in a way that may be unintended. Section 2B allows the delegation to amend the agenda at any time by majority vote, not just during the initial adoption, which more or less eliminates the need to suspend the rules to change the agenda. This is contrary to actual historical process and an unwise deviation from Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. We believe it prudent to simply rely on the default behavior prescribed in RONR, which contains the adoption of the agenda initially by majority vote and requires a suspension of the rules with a 2/3 vote to do things differently after that. With that.
All right, here, is there any discussion on the motion here? All right, hearing and seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
The ayes sound like they have it here. All right.
All right, 2024 ABM B05 to codify the convention committees. All right, So this is the motion to amend the LPF bylaws to codify the convention committee. We move to amend the bylaws, make the following sets of changes. To append to Article 3, Section 1, subsection A, the text convention committee. And then it's not listed in the list of of standing committees. Amend Article 3, Section 2 in the following ways. Split the text, the member elected with the highest vote total shall become the Rules Committee chair into a new subsection A. Split the text, the members elected with the highest vote total shall become the Rules Committee chair into section B. Split the text, vacancies on this committee occurring after the annual business meeting shall be appointed by the LPF chair with the approval of the executive committee into a new subsection C. Split the text, the Rules Committee shall be responsible for interpreting the LPF Constitution, bylaws, and rules and regulations based on the current law and may prepare and submit amendments to constitutions and bylaws and standing rules for a vote by the membership at the annual business meeting into a new subsection D. Renumber all the existing sections. Move the text, the Rules Committee shall be the deliberative body in matters of dispute, and its decisions may be appealed to the executive committee or the members at the annual business meeting in assembly according to the standing rules from Article 4, Section 5, subsection A, to become a new appropriately numbered subsection. All right, and then to append a new appropriately numbered section to Article 3 with the text convention committee. The duties of the convention committee are to plan the regular LPF convention, research hotels and catering, coordinate volunteers, propose a venue and budget to the executive committee, and prepare a schedule of events for the next 2 annual business meetings. And then to amend Article 4, Section 5 in the following ways: to strike from subsection A the text, the duties of the convention committee are to plan the LPF convention, research hotels and catering, coordinate volunteers, propose a budget, and prepare a schedule of events for the next 2 annual business meetings. Strike from subsection A the text, these responsibilities may be delegated by the executive committee to the convention committee and other standing committees, and the convention committee will present its final report to the new executive committee following the conclusion of the annual business meeting, and strike subsections B, D, and E in their entirety. So, to read. So, Article 3 committees would now read, standing committees shall include the communications committee, the membership committee, the platform committee, the rules committee, the fundraising committee, the legislative action committee, the affiliate support committee, the audit committee, and the convention committee. Then the next section change would be the rules committee. And that is to renumber. So that will be renumbering these were just numbered incorrectly. There was more than one B. Renumbers 1 to E. One of the B's to E. One that was C to F, and then another one to G. So essentially moving this stuff around. And then the convention committee would be a new section 12. The duties of the convention committee are to plan the regular LPF convention. We put regular because we offered a provision for special ones. Research hotels and catering, coordinate volunteers, propose a venue, and budget to the executive committee, and prepare for the next 2 annual business meetings. And then that would change also Article 5 meetings, conventions, and objects of actions, which had the duties of the convention committee sort of spelled out there. And now they're being relocated to the committee's section of bylaws. Rationale. This proposed change codifies the actual practices of how committees interact with the annual convention. Particularly, it codifies the convention committee as a permanent standing committee on par with the other standing committees, and has been pretty much in practice since at least 2018, and prescribes its duties to match how the past 6 conventions have actually been executed. In support of this goal, we consolidated all other convention-related duties for each committee to that committee's list of duties in Article 3, and removed redundant language from Article 4. In particular, we moved the mediation and arbitration powers of the Rules Committee from Article 4 to Article 3 to make more clear they apply in all circumstances, not just convention. Also proposed some reorganization of the Rules Committee's duties to split existing text into more readable subsections, since Rules primarily has convention-related duties. And that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, is there any discussion on the motion here?
side has to clarify at the very beginning, the first and second bullet point. They look duplicative to me, so I'm trying to understand what is the distinction between the
For A
two.
and,
This, where it said split, maybe section A, right there. The first and second bullet point.
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't understand.
Okay, yeah, this was to take the text, it was originally written, actually, I think that's an error in the text, but let me see if I got it where it's the actual text here. This is why we spelled it out. So I believe that's just an error in the text there. We split it out from A to B. We took it from section A and moved it to section B.
So the first bullet point says you're gonna take that text and move it into a new subsection A, is that?
It comes from A and goes to B. And yeah, that's actually a typographical error. Yeah.
Good catch.
all right.
Do we need to amend the motion to recognize the typo? Or is that Scrivener's error that will just fix?
I mean, the rules committee does have the ability after the fact to go back and make grammatical changes as long as they don't change the substance of the bylaw, constitution, anything in the governing docs. So I don't think we need to get into the weeds on the typography or grammar or whatnot, because worst case scenario has been brought up here, and we can direct the rules committee when we reform them and for the next term to address that typographical error real quick. Simple.
Yeah, that's not in the actual code anymore. That's not the actual.
Yeah, and I don't think that's in the actual mark, like Mr. Cataret's saying, is I don't believe since it's in the actual markup, it's anything more than a typographical bonus coin for us out here today. Just as an aside too, guys, if you're looking to discuss or debate, please move up to the mic. I'm getting feedback that for our live stream, people who are watching are not able to hear anybody out in the crowd. So, I know. So unfortunately, I'm going to ask you guys to remove your knee from your seat if you're going to have to speak. All right. Moving along, though, back on orders. Mr. Vincent, go ahead. I see you're up at the mic.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to amend section 12 right here in the convention committee to strike hotels and replace venues with hotels.
Fair. All right. So there has been a motion to amend the motion here, and under the section up on the screen here where it says research hotels and catering, it would be struck and replaced with research venues and catering. Does everybody understand?
Second.
All right. I'll give Mr. Paff the second here. All right. Is there any discussion on the amendment? The amendment would be to strike the word under section 12.
This isn't in it yet.
Oh, yeah, this isn't. All right. All right. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
I would like to ask the current committee chair if this is well received.
I think so. I would potentially change it to research venues and catering, or I don't know, maybe catering isn't broad enough either, but I do think changing hotels to venues in general is a good idea.
Yes, we don't want to, I may be biasing the delegates a little bit, but I do believe that venue would be more appropriate as, we may not always want to be in a hotel for one reason or another. All right. Moving along, though, is there any further discussion on the amendment to change the word hotels to venue? Mr. Thompson?
If we change the word.
You got to turn the mic on. I know.
Green light.
There we go.
If we change the word hotels to venue, could we strike and catering? Because it seems specific to hotels.
Are you making an amendment to the amendment there, Mr. Thompson?
Would that friendly amendment to the amendment be well received.
Um,
I think so.
all right, so
Yes,
there's
sure.
been a amendment to the amendment that instead of striking the word hotels and replacing the word venues, we would strike the word hotels and catering and replace it with just venues. Is that correct, Mr. Thompson?
That is correct.
Okay, so there has been a amendment to the amendment now, where we're getting into amendment inception here. So let's not get too lost. So we are looking, the amendment to the amendment would be to change the strike from just hotels to hotels and catering. Is there any questions on the amendment of the amendment?
Who's in second?
I'll second.
I believe it was seconded, but just for the record, since it's been asked, Mr. Nanos gets the second here on this. But once again, the amendment to the amendment would be to strike the entirety of hotels and catering, the 3 words hotels and catering, and replace it with venue. Is there any discussion on the amendment of the amendment? All in favor of the amendment please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Now we are back onto the amendment, which would be to replace the word or the line research hotels and catering with research venues. Is there any further discussion on that amendment? All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. The ayes have it, amendment passes. We are back onto the main amended agenda or motion here. Is there any further discussion on the amended agenda? Motion, excuse me. All right, hearing and seeing none outside of my word fumble there. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Sounds like the ayes have it. All right.
All right, 2024 ABM 06, strike extra committee appointments. This is the motion to amend the LPF bylaws to strike the extra committee appointments clause. And we move to amend the LPF bylaws, Article 4, Section 5, to strike subsection F in its entirety and renumber everything afterwards. So this basically, okay, so Section F that we were moving to strike is the chair or the executive committee may appoint such committees as are deemed necessary to conduct the business of the LPF in its meetings. The clause in Section 5F defines substantially wider powers than are obvious. Basically, it's got 2 problems. The first is it unnecessarily grants the executive committee the ability to appoint special committees. That's an inherent power that they have under honor. And it's also prescribed in Article 3, Section 1B. The second is that due to the placement of the or between chair and executive committee, it allows the chair to appoint committees unilaterally with no oversight or vote for as many such committees as the chair wishes. But we believe it's prudent to simply rely on the default behavior prescribed by honor in Article 3, Section 1.
Thank you, Mr. Carteret. All right, is there any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing and seeing none. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. The ayes have it.
All right. Okay, 2024 ABM B07 to clarify the regional amendment process. This is the motion to amend bylaws Article 4 to clarify the regional amendment. To clarify the regional amendment would be offered as a resolution. So get down to it. So we move to amend the LPF bylaws Article 4, Section 5, subsection to strike the text adopted by a majority vote of delegates and replace it with the text adopted by resolution of delegates. So let me get down to it. All right, this would be Article 4, Section meetings and convention, objects of action, Section 5G. Amendments to the number and composition of regions are adopted, and that would be to strike a majority vote and insert resolution of delegates at an annual business meeting prior to the election of the regional representatives at that meeting. If no regional amendment is adopted, the regions for the current executive committee will continue in effect for the new executive committee elected at the meeting. The rationale here is that the regional amendment process adopted in 2023 did not specifically clarify what type of motion was expected, and we propose to simplify the wording to clarify this as a resolution of delegates, which inherently has a majority vote threshold unless the delegates set a higher threshold. So it's basically just so everyone knows what kind of motion it is and what the rules are.
All right, do we have any discussion on the motion here? All right, hearing and seeing no discussion on the motion. Oh. Go ahead, Mr. Benson.
Point of information, is this allowing us to redefine our regions and like the bounds within the state by a resolution and not a majority vote? Is that what this is doing here?
Resolution is a specific type of majority vote.
So there's still a majority vote?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It still has to be voted on, yes. All right, any further discussion on the motion here? Going once, going twice. All righty. All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, please say no. All right. Well, it sounds like the ayes have it.
All right, just as a conclusion to the rules report, we just offered some possible suggestions for future work for the rules committee, whoever's on it next year, just to improve the methodology for calling special conventions if it passed, which it did, and provide for member-directed recall of the executive committee in between conventions. Review and update duties assigned to each committee, executive committee position versus committees, and particular duties of the regional representatives and directors at large. Review and reconsidering which committees need to be standing committees versus special committees. Possibly prescribe voluntary county affiliate secession in a legally defensible way, which is way more challenging than you might think, while protecting the LPF's interests and assets. The right to join is also the right to leave, and we should reflect that in our affiliation procedure to the extent allowed by law. Provide a legally defensible path for county affiliates to retain their assets and structure and gain independence if the LPF is dissolved. Determine if the LPF chartering other kinds of affiliates, not just county affiliates, is desired, and providing for that in affiliation procedures. Other parties have partisan political clubs, municipal clubs, and issue-based stuff. We might want to consider it. And then determine hypothetical effects if we ever decide to terminate affiliation with the LNC. Is that possible? And that would be, is it possible? Is it wise? Just things to consider for a very long-term future in hopes that we never have to deal with it. With that, I'm going to conclude the rules report. Thank you.
Guess what? It's time to recess for lunch.
All right, thank you, Mr. Cataract here. So we can move along here. So item 12 on the agenda, guys, here is recess for lunch. It's only 11 o'clock here. I was gonna say, if we want, I can leave it up to the delegation here. If anybody wants to make this motion, I'll entertain it. But I think we have enough time because there's only one floor motion. We could potentially get in the floor motions and the officer reports before lunch here. So would anybody want to make that motion or?
Second.
The agenda now requires a suspension of the rules. Is that passed?
Well, it usually would require a suspension of the rules, I would figure, since the agenda had been passed. So, Mr. Leisner, are you moving to suspend the rules?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Leisner is making a motion to suspend the rules in order for us to hear items 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 on the agenda here.
Second
by Mr. Johnson here. Is there any debate on Don't we have to ask them before we discuss it?
Well,
Is there a discussion on it?
Was that a motion to suspend and do the thing?
It was a motion to suspend and do debate.
No debate.
No debate? All right. So no debate here, guys. This is, once again, just so we can understand what we're all voting on here real quick and give Ed a chance to write everything down. We are moving to suspend the rules in order to take up items 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 on the current agenda. So an aye vote would be to take up those items before lunch and move them up on the agenda. A no vote would be to keep the agenda as is, and essentially we would move in the recess for lunch. Is there any question? Well,
I do have a question. Let me get a mic.
I'm going to entertain this.
Sorry, this is actually a question. If we move the credentials report and the forum call, that would possibly,
We're not moving that.
okay, all right, thanks.
No, once again, guys, we are moving 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 up to precede item 12, which is recess for lunch there. So 13 and 14 remain after lunch session to answer that question there. What?
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay. All right, I apologize. I'm being informed now that I am an ignorant chair and that the items on the agenda in the magazine are different from mine here. So we are looking, if you guys are in your magazine here, ladies and gentlemen, this would be items, where am I? Okay. So it would be under annual business meeting, day 1 afternoon session. We would be moving up items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So for those following on with the Google Sheets agenda, it would be items 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. On the magazine agenda, it would be under annual business meeting, day 1 afternoon session. And those would be items 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on there, just for clarification.
Got it.
Before I move on, are there any questions on what we're voting on? Since we do have some discrepancy between the agenda I'm working off of and the magazine agenda. I'm going to take everybody's silence and all but one set of hands in the air as everybody understands what we're voting on here. So all in favor of suspending the rules to take up these items on the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I believe the 2/3 of the ayes have it there, no, so I do apologize. All right, so let's keep this moving along, guys. We can get a lot of this done quick. Item 15 is old business. We have no old business, so we can move along with that. Item 16 is new business four motions constitution. I believe, which was, let me just double check here. I know we did have one for motion. I just want to make sure which one, where it was on there, or if somebody can get me updated.
Josh, I proposed the motion and I'm planning to withdraw it anyway, so I think we can probably skip it.
Okay.
Point of inquiry?
Go ahead, Mr. Kortzer.
We just voted to suspend the agenda rules so that we can go and pick up a motion.
No, we
Are they separate?
suspended the rules to do the thing.
Okay, I just want to make sure they weren't separate. Thank
No,
you.
sir, that was why it was a non-debatable one, because we were implying that we were going to do these things here. So items 16, 17, and 18, guys, there was only one for motion. As Mr. Leisner said, he is withdrawing this motion. So unfortunately, since it was not taken up by the body, we will not be hearing that motion. So 16, 17, and 18, we basically have run through. 19, remaining new business. I don't believe we have any remaining new business on the agenda to my knowledge. And anybody can correct me on that one, which I'm not seeing. And you guys are the first to tell me when I'm wrong, so I know I'm right here. So we'll move along to item 20 on the agenda, which is the officers' reports. Under section A would be the treasurer's report to start. Mr. Leisner, you can go ahead when you're ready, sir.
All right, thank you. So most of my report is in the magazine in front of you guys on page 16. I have a few graphs there that are kind of showing our annual contributions, expenditures, et cetera, and our current bank balance and how it's fluctuated over the last few years. It's currently up from, we've definitely done a good job of increasing fundraising the last couple of years. However, this year has been down from the last two. We do have approximately $56,000 in funds in the bank prior to convention. We obviously, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year and also our biggest expenditure of the year. So we'll obviously tally that all up at the end and see where we end up. One thing I do want to promote, and since we have a ton of people in the room, I know a lot of you already are doing this, but we have a fundraiser program, our 125. This is because we can't collect dues legally in the state of Florida. This is how we basically pay for our day-to-day operations as a party. What 125 means is we're seeking to have 100 members of the party in the state pay or contribute at least $25 a month. And basically that covers all our organizational costs throughout the year and allows us to do other fundraisers with other donations made. If there are any questions or comments about any of our finances, you can reach out to me directly, or I don't know if we have time to ask any right now, but happy to answer those as best I can.
Well, we got an hour technically till lunch. So is there any questions for the treasurer?
Yeah, I have a question. What do you get as a member of the 125 family?
You get this
Okay,
cool
so-
little pin right here.
Well, one, you get to receive a little pin. I don't know if Matt has one right here. And it says 125, so everyone knows you're a big baller like Matt. Also, we do have our Discord channel with a private channel for 125 donors. We've occasionally brought on speakers to come and basically give a private speech to our bigger donors that are members. And beyond that, I mean, I think we've tried to recognize donors in the past as well. We probably don't do as good a job as we should, but something we can work towards.
As you can see, I'm now pulling out all of my pins I carried in my jacket. All right, thank you, Mr. Leisner. Is there any further questions for the treasurer at all? All right, going once, going twice, and it's gone. All right, moving along here. Section B is the secretary report. Mr. Appler, when you're ready, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm finishing out my third term now as LPF secretary. During these 3 terms, I've done all the prescribed secretary duties, including meeting notifications, preparing agendas, minutes, and attendance records, tracking leadership changes of the EC committees, motions, credentialing of members, and oversight of county affiliates. And I've also sat on Rules Membership Affiliate Support Committee as an ex officio member. During the past year, I continued serving as my county affiliate chair in Santa Rosa County. And since December, I've been the secretary and treasurer of my county affiliate. I'm not intending to run for re-election as secretary. It's been a pleasure serving for nearly 5 years now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Appler. Is there any questions for our secretary at all? All right, hearing and seeing none. Ed, appreciate your term and your time on the EC and look forward to seeing what we have next from you, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, so moving on, we have section C under item 20 is the vice chair report. Pastor Warbar, when you're ready, you have the floor, sir.
In all reality, Tim Crosby can probably do this report better than I can because he did it far longer than I have. I've only been here for about the past, 6-7 weeks or so. So the only thing I've been doing is trying to catch up with who's out there and what they have going on. I've tried to have conversations throughout. The one thing that I have found, we need volunteers, guys. We need workers. And so if I stay in this position, be ready for me to hit you up to put you to work somewhere. And I'm done.
All right. I'm so proud you made that short and sweet there, Tom. I know, that's huge. All right, any questions for our 6-week vice chair? Is the past vice chair in the room by any chance, in case there's any questions for him? No? Smart man. All right, hearing and seeing none. Tub, thank you for taking the wheel for us for a little while, and let's see what happens. Like I said, let's see what happens. All right, next up is myself, which is the chair report here. So I'm going to keep it really short and sweet here. My report is in the magazine. It's posted on the bulletin board. I drove all around the state, going to events, representing the LPF. I ran all the meetings that I could. Both of my vice chairs will let you know I did not have any LNC meetings I had to attend this term, luckily, so I was there for all of them. But appreciate you guys all here. It's been a learning experience this year. Going to be better next year, definitely, because of it. It's an election year, guys. You know, I don't think I need to understate how important this is going to be for us this year. We cannot lose focus and drop the ball. It's going to be very important for us to recruit and run candidates because of how poor our opposition is right now. So just want everybody to keep in mind, we are a political party. Our job is to run candidates. I know I'm sounding like Joe Hanoush up here, but let's make sure that we can get ourselves across the finish line this year, guys. You know, there's been a lot of things going on out there that have people taking second guesses on things. We need to hold firm. So at this time, are there any questions for the chair? All right, hearing and seeing none. We got that done in a very rapid 10-15 minutes. We still have well over an hour till lunch, but I don't feel like entertaining another motion to suspend the rules here. So I'm going to entertain the motion to recess for lunch. We will be coming back at 1:30, guys. So you'll get an extra hour to go hit the bar, grab some food, whatever it is you need to do to come back here with your best self. Yeah, okay. I think we can make it announcement. We got a couple minutes here.
I just wanted to point out, sorry,
You're good.
I just wanted to point out, we are selling our convention t-shirts out in the hallway back there. The Duval County affiliate has been running that for us, but $30 for a shirt. We try to do one every year, so if you collect them, you just want some new LP gear, go out there and check that out. We have them in multiple colors. Also, we still have a few spots available for both of our lunch and dinner meals. If you did not purchase a package or want to join in for either of those, you can still do that. You can see me after we get out of here, and I'll help you with that. And also, one thing that I skipped over in my report, I wanted to recognize Joe Sicole for his help with being a deputy treasurer under me, and he's done a great job, and I just wanted to recognize him. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weissman. Real quick announcement. We wanted to get out there real fast for the officers. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to recess till 1:30 for lunch.
Motion to recess for lunch.
All right, Mr. Johnson moves. Mr. Quinn seconds. Is there any objection to recessing till 1:30 for lunch? Hearing and seeing none. Go have fun.
Is it lunch right here? Is it here? Is it
It's the next room over that way. 1:30, right?